So anyway, it was my freshman year in college at University of California. 17 years old. And so we were sitting in a beer garden at Squaw Valley. I'm trying to remember what year it was, mid-50s, something like that. Yeah, mid-50s, about 1955, something like that. So anyway, about the only time we ever got to race against Eastern skiers was by the time Nationals came around. So we decided, we're sitting there at the beer garden and started joking around, not drinking because hell we couldn't bite. All of us were underage, and but we were sitting there anyway with a bunch of other guys that we used to race with and everything. So one of the guys said, "Let's go back east and hit the eastern races." Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So we pulled see how much money we have. We had $70 between us. 2 hours later, we're on the road. Next morning, I called my dad from Alta, Utah. And my dad said, and he used to just hate skiing. You're not going to be anything but a damn ski bum your whole life. Well, he was right about that. But anyway, he says, "Where in the heck are you?" I says, "I'm in Alta." He says, "Alta? What in the heck are you doing calling me from Alta? You're only about an hour from home." Well, where he thought it was is if just between it's about 15 miles east of Auburn on Interstate 80. There's a little place there's Baxter, but just below Baxter, there's a little place, there's a sign there that says Alta. And basically it's just a post office, and there must be probably 100 people at most that even goes into this post office. Well, that's where he thought I was. So I knew, I says, "Dad, I'm not in Alta, California. I'm in Alta, Utah." And I could hear the phone just about go dead. And I knew he had the phone out about 15 inches from his ears, figuring out what the hell I'm doing in Alta. "What in the hell are you doing in Alta, Utah? You're supposed to be starting school again on Monday." And I says, "I'm not going back to school." He says, "What?" I says, "I'm not going back to school." He says, "What in the hell are you doing?" I says, "Going back east to race." He says, "I'll probably see you in May." And he didn't say anything. "You're just a damn ski bum." And he says, "Okay, don't write home for money. Let me know what's going on, but don't write home for money because you're not going to get a penny." He says, "Okay." So anyway, what we did is we ended up working at Alta, got a job working, saved up enough money. We went from there and went to Aspen, did the same thing at Aspen, went from Aspen to Boyne Mountain, went from Boyne Mountain to Mont Tremblant, and then we went from there to Cannon Mountain. And so anyway, we were there, stayed through the whole time, and then we headed back to the West Coast. So we drove all the way from Cannon Mountain to Ketchum, Sun Valley. We pulled in between Haley and Ketchum, and it was real late in the night. We didn't have any place to stay. And I knew a lot of people at Sun Valley, but it was a matter of just finding them and hoping to hell they didn't have 15 other bums in there. So anyway, we slept in the dump. And why would he sleep at the dump? Because they were burning the trash, and it was the only place that was halfway warm. So we slept in the dump for 2 nights. Then ran into this other one guy that I knew who was working in the Challenger out at Sun Valley, which is the old hotel there. And anyway, he worked in the restaurant. Well, he told us how to get into the attic of the restaurant. So we had this Coleman stove, and so we got up in the attic, had everything out, and then we'd go down into the restaurant, in the kitchen, get food, go back up and cook it. 3 days later, they caught us. Today, you know what happened today, we'd be in jail. And they just kind of laughed, asked us how we got up there, and told us, "Don't do that anymore." So anyway, well, that story went all around. And ended up then finally running into one of my buddies, and so we had a place to stay, and stayed there for about another 2 weeks. Went from there to Mount Hood over to Timberline Lodge, and then we stayed there for a couple weeks, and then headed back to California. And it was about May when we got back. So anyway, But man, those days were something else. Just